Alright guys, we finally have a fully confirmed list of the superstars, divas and legends included in this year's game, totaling 84 playable characters in total. First up we have 42 current day superstars, which include Alberto Del Rio, Antonio Cesaro, Big Show, Brock Lesnar, Brodus Clay, Chris Jericho, Christian, CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, Damien Sandow, Daniel Bryan, Darren Young, David Otunga, Dean Ambrose, Dolph Ziggler, Drew McIntyre, Heath Slater, Jack Swagger, Jinder Mahal, John Cena, Justin Gabriel, Kane, Kofi Kingston, Mark Henry, R-Truth, Randy Orton, Rey Mysterio, Roman Reigns, Ryback, Santino Marella, Seth Rollins, Sheamus, Sin Cara, Tensai, The Rock, The Miz, The Great Khali, Titus O'Neil, Triple H, The Undertaker, Wade Barrett and Zack Ryder. On top of that, there's also 7 divas, which include AJ Lee, Aksana, Kaitlyn, Layla, Lita, Natalya and Stephanie McMahon, and we'll have 33 legends as part of the 30 years of WrestleMania roster, which include Andre the Giant, Batista, Big Show Retro, Big John Studd, Bret Hart, Brock Lesnar Retro, Chris Jericho Retro, Diesel, Eddie Guerrero, Edge, Goldberg, Hulk Hogan, Hollywood Hulk Hogan, JBL, John Cena Retro, Kane Retro, King Kong Bundy, Mick Foley, Mr. McMahon, Macho Man Randy Savage, Razor Ramon, Ric Flair Retro, Ricky Steamboat, Sergeant Slaughter, Shawn Michaels Retro, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Ted DiBiase, The Rock Retro, Triple H Retro, Undertaker Retro and Yokozuna. That takes us to a total of 82 playable characters, with the addition of Ultimate Warrior and the American Badass Undertaker increasing that to 84 playable characters available for day 1. When you compare that to WWE 13, that also had 42 current day stars, but it had 2 less on the Legends roster, with 31 superstars compared to WWE 2K14's 33. As for divas, last year had 11 divas made up of 7 current stars and 4 Attitude Era divas, and that number has dropped to just 7 this year, 5 from the current roster and 2 diva legends. Aside from that, last year also had Mike Tyson as pre-order DLC to match Ultimate Warrior this year, and last year's collector's edition only featured an additional attire for Stone Cold, so at least this year we do get an extra character in the American Badass. So if we add them all together, WWE 2K14 features 84 playable characters, with WWE 13 featuring just 1 more at 85. So at present, WWE 13 did feature more, but you can argue that this is down to the fact that 13 featured 4 variations of Mick Foley, 3 of Triple H and so on, whereas this year we'll have a lot more alternate models, but so far they're only listing a maximum of 2 for each superstar, with current and retro characters, aside from The Undertaker, who has a 3rd as DLC. So if you take that into account, providing the alternate WrestleMania attires are playable, then 2K14's roster is bigger. They just aren't listing all the models separately, something that I'm glad about, as it was a waste of space on the selection screen when you have so many of the same person, but I just hope that we do get the option to set a default attire for Universe mode this year. Now that we know who's in the game, it's time to talk about the people that didn't make the cut, as there's a few names that a lot of people were expecting, especially Fandango, Curtis Axel and RVD. Now Fandango is one that I did expect to make the cut, as he's been around for a fair amount of time, but at the same time I'm kinda glad that he didn't, because it gives 2K extra time to work on his entrance and hopefully update it to include Summer Rae, as she only started dancing with him around WrestleMania time. So if they've kept him back to take the time to perfect his entrance, then hopefully it now includes both Pyro and Summer as his dancer, and then that's something that fans should be happy with. As for Curtis Axel and RVD, those are 2 names that I thought may make the cut due to Yuke's already having models in place for them, but at the end of the day there's always going to be a cut-off point when they stop working on names for the main roster and then switch to DLC. And when you think about it, these 2 names are big names, so if you go down the Triple H route of what's best for business, then in a business point of view, these 2 names, alongside Fandango and the Wyatt family, are perfect DLC choices, as they will sell and they'll make a ton of money. Next up, there's the Divas roster, which I thought 2K would have increased after complaints that it was too small in WWE 13, especially when they could have added in various legends from the history of WrestleMania, but instead it's actually decreased with the surprising omission of the Bellas, Alicia Fox and Trish Stratus, and even the Funkadactyls, who had the NPC models in the game last year, so I figure that we'll at least see these 6 names announced as DLC further down the line. Finally, there's Legends DLC, of which I would expect to see Bossman, Mr. Perfect, James Duggan and Roddy Piper after all those names had t-shirts included in the crowd in the recent WrestleMania screenshots, and maybe even Bruno Sammartino. So all in all, the roster is a positive, and it's definitely the best all-star lineup that we've ever seen, even if it's not officially the biggest roster at launch, but I expect the final roster count after all the DLC announcements to surpass that of WWE 13, and of course there's also managers yet to be announced, so we may still see the likes of Ricardo Rodriguez and Paul Heyman, with legendary managers like Paul Bearer and Mr. Fuji. So after having time to reflect on it, let me know what you think of the roster in the comments and your predictions for DLC, and I'll catch you next time for more WWE 2K14 news.